Hello and welcome to Telegraph Studio. I'm Alistair Greener and today we're discussing payment fraud. And joining me is Katy Worobec from Financial Fraud Action UK. Good morning.
Good morning.
Are we actually lagging behind the fraudsters?
Well, it's true that fraudsters are always on the ball. They'll change their tactics as soon as we get new technology in place, which is why it's vital for customers and businesses to understand what they need to do to help prevent themselves being a victim of fraud.
Okay, well, you talked there about the scams. What are the most common and dangerous scams around at the moment today?
Well, what we're seeing at the moment is that fraudsters are duping customers and businesses into giving away personal details and financial information, and in some cases even transferring money from one account to another. They do this by pretending to be from the bank or from the police or some other authoritative figure, and they actually have some information about the customer and they get them to give further information, which then allows them access into the accounts. And essentially what this means is that it doesn't matter how good your security systems are at the banking end, if the customer is actually giving away the key to the door, if you like. We've worked actually to help close down that opportunity, but the point is that you need to make sure that these people are very plausible. They're con merchants at the end of the day, and they will make you think that you have got to respond to what they're saying.
So whose job is it to actually educate us all to ensure we're protected?
It has to be a collaborative approach, in my view. The types of scams I'm talking about isn't just a banking industry issue, because the fraudsters will pretend to be from the government, from the police, from computer companies, utility companies, you name it. So we all need to be interested in helping to prevent customers falling victim to this type of scam.
And when we look at all of these frauds, what's the biggest challenge from preventing us from stopping them?
I think it's about our intrinsic behaviour. We tend to trust people. So if someone phones up and has some information about you, you think, well, they must be who they say they are. They must be from my bank or the police. That doesn't hold true, unfortunately. The fraudster can find out information and can use it. So we've got to try and change behaviour so people start to question, don't just blindly accept that who they're talking to is who they say they are.
Now, we've talked a lot about consumers, but you've mentioned once or twice businesses as well. How are businesses being targeted?
Well, we're seeing businesses being targeted in a very similar way to consumers. So fraudsters are duping them into making changes to account numbers. So, for example, someone might phone up and say, I'm one of your suppliers and I need you to change my account details on your records. So, again, businesses need to be very much aware that they shouldn't take at face value who they're speaking to. They need to make those extra checks to ensure.
But you seem to be putting the onus on the customer. The customer's going to say, well, hang on a second, it's up to the service provider to protect me, isn't it? What is the industry doing?
Absolutely. There is a lot going on behind the scenes. So all the banks and card issuers individually have got prevention and detection tools in place to help protect their customers. There's other information and intelligence which is shared at an industry level to allow us to understand how the criminals are working. We have our dedicated police unit as well, which is helping to stop criminal gangs attacking the system. So there is a lot of individual banks and industry level work going on to help protect the customers from fraud. But it's important that people understand that because of the types of scams we're seeing at the moment, they must know that they've got their own part to play in all this. It's not just a one-way street. You've got to be able to understand how to prevent yourself being a victim of fraud.
Now, we read in the press about the reporting of fraud, and there are certain allegations that the industry is just not reporting the extent of the fraud.
Well, that's not true, Alistair. We collate industry figures in Financial Fraud Action UK, and we have been doing so for a number of years. These are robust figures, and they show the scale of the fraud. We're not afraid about talking about that. I think the issue is that people often confuse this with the reported crime figures, for example. And I think part of the issue is if you look at something, say, like a remote purchase fraud, a card used over the internet fraudulently, often you don't know where the card details are compromised and you don't know who the perpetrator is because they're probably sitting in the middle of Russia at the end of a series of websites. So in terms of having information or intelligence to give law enforcement, for example, about what they can do, information to help them investigate the fraud, there's nothing there. So what we've got are the robust reporting figures, which we publish twice a year, but our focus is more about the prevention and detection of fraud, and where we can give intelligence to law enforcement, then our own dedicated police unit is helping the situation by targeting organised criminal gangs where we've got that information and can use it.
Now, by what you've said earlier on, this is an ever-changing mode with fraud. So how do you see this fraud evolving, say, in the next 3 to 5 years, if we were to look into the future?
I think at the moment, we can't see any reason why this type of scam where fraudsters are pretending to be somebody that they say they aren't, getting people to give away information, why that should change. It's an easy target from the fraudster's perspective. So I think that's why it's really important we all have to work together on this collaborative approach to changing customer behaviour and really getting the messaging out there to get everybody to understand what they can do to prevent themselves being a victim.
You've certainly given us a lot to think about today. Katy Worobec from Financial Fraud Action UK, thank you very much.
Thank you.